to Designed and Delivered for Destiny. I'm your host, Nicole Cherie. I'm a wife, author, life coach, and speaker. I was a mental health therapist for over 10 years, and now I want to bring the conversations from my office and bring it to you wherever you are. Each episode, we will discuss various topics related to your design, your deliverance, or your destiny. I'm glad you're taking time out of your busy schedule to tune in, so let's go ahead and jump on in. So today, I would love for us to talk about your plan to maintain peace this holiday season. Do you have a plan? Because as much as the end of the year can bring so much joy, it's also a time that can bring a lot of stress. Last week, I discussed the importance of ensuring you don't end the year on an empty tank because you have a race to run on day one of 2024. And part of ensuring that your tank doesn't go empty is maintaining your peace. Now, we know that there is only one source for peace, and once it's given to us, it's not taken back. So let's talk about how is it possible that our peace keeps fluctuating? And I also would like for us to explore the role that you play in ensuring that there is a peaceful atmosphere around you, and are you responsible for helping others to be at peace? So maybe we can first define what is peace, right? So let's look at it formally. Let's look at a formal definition, a biblical definition, and then let's just look at what it means to us personally. So according to Webster, peace means freedom from disturbance, tranquility, mentally calm, and serenity. So that sounds about right. Now, peace is defined several ways biblically, depending on the context that you're looking at, but oftentimes it's connected to harmonious relationships, some sort of rest and contentment, wholeness, right? So those are some of the ways that Bible will use and define the word peace. But when you think of peace for you, what does it mean to you? What comes to mind? I personally think of calmness, rest, contentment, stability in most areas of my life, healthy relationships around me, and most importantly, I think of the hope that I have in Jesus. And I think it's important for you to know how you personally define peace so that you can begin to identify what is adding to your peace and what is taking away from your peace. Let's acknowledge pretty early on that peace can be fixed or it can be fluid. It could be this permanent state of being or a guest that just comes to stay with you for short periods of time, then exits after a little while. Peace isn't delicate or moody, whereby it just decides to leave on its own and, when certain conditions aren't being met in or around you. It's not this unpredictable presence in your life that you can't count on. Peace is always ready, willing, and able to remain in your life for as long as you will allow it. So then why does it fluctuate? Because it doesn't care about your relatives or in-laws coming to visit, but you do. It doesn't care about what's in your bank account or that chronic health issue that you've been dealing with, but you do. You see, peace, it doesn't respond to circumstances, it responds to you. When you decide to give up your peace, it does not resist you. Peace knows the value it brings into your life. So if you decide to let it go, it will walk right out of your life and come back when you're ready. So let me ask you this, because many people believe that they have peace, but do you have the real thing? Because there is a peace that this world can give you. Jesus says it in John 14:27, peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. So we know that the world provides a version of peace, which you may low-key have been chasing. So what does that look like? What does the world's version of peace look like? It looks like having things that the world says matters. That checklist that gives you value, marriage, children, wealth, status, influence, a big network. The list goes on. We can look around and see the number of content and calm and at ease people in the world, both Christian and non-Christian, whose peace is based on the world. And how do we know it's a piece of this world and not of Christ? Well, if we look a little deeper than the appearances that we see, there's a reason why mental health challenges, especially suicide, are at an all-time high. There's a reason why health has declined in our country. There's a reason why pharmaceutical companies have so much commercial space on our televisions. It's not happenstance that divorce rates have continued to increase, identity issues, and the list goes on. You see, the truth is that the only way to have real peace is to have Jesus in your life. Everything else that gives you a sense of peace, it won't last. You know, Jesus isn't just the author, but he's the distributor of the gift of peace. And the God of peace, he doesn't take back what he has given you. The challenge lies in the fact that even though he's given you his peace, it doesn't mean that you will choose to keep it. You know, you can receive it, but then choose to let it go. And I really don't know why God trusted us to make so many choices that impact our well-being, but he did. And this is one of those choices that he left for us to decide. And let's be real, we probably give away our peace multiple times in a day. Or some of you might be good at keeping it for the most part until that one season comes around. Then, you know, that peace just leaves, kind of goes off into the distance only to return when that season passes. Now, for some of you, I'm going to guess that you think you have peace because you don't feel stress at the present moment. But understand that it's possible to have an appearance of peace, but in all actuality, you're still carrying around that stress. What does that mean? Well, that means that you're suppressing your feelings. And if they were to surface, it would be evident that you're truly not in a state of peace. You see, peace, it's a state of being. It's a knowing, an understanding. It's a mindset. When peace is part of you, it's a force that speaks. It influences how you think, how you respond, if you will react, how you communicate, how you pray, your relationships, your ability to walk by faith. It influences every area of your life, which is why it is so important for you to know if you're living with a fake or a worldly type of peace, or if you have the real thing. So what does God's peace look like? I guess we can look back at our earlier definition that it's connected to harmonious relationships, the sense of rest and contentment, wholeness. But I also want to make it a little more practical. Peace is that voice within you that says, you have nothing to prove. It's going to work out. You will be victorious. Things will turn around in your favor. Peace reminds you that your value doesn't change based on what is said at the dinner table or how many invites you get to the holiday parties. Peace says that even if it takes longer than you hoped for that situation that you've been praying for, that it's all working together for your good. Peace reminds you to trust God in every situation. It reminds you that you don't have to have it all together, that God's strength is made perfect in your weakness. The peace of God reminds you never to condemn yourself, that you have the power over negative thoughts and images in your mind. You see, the peace of God is this tangible presence of the Holy Spirit in your life. It's a voice that's calm but very confident. Its presence is comforting and reassuring. It's a gift that keeps on giving. So then what is causing you to let it go? And the only way to answer this is to identify who or what is controlling the peace within you. Because if you're letting it go, that means you're not in control. So someone or something is. Is it your spouse, your children, your in-laws, your bank statement? What are those triggers, the circumstances in your life that takes away your peace? And it seems that for a lot of people, money, time, and dealing with people are the top 3 triggers. And when any of those 3 are creating problems in your life, then peace tends to be forfeited. Now, I wonder if this is one of the reasons that people forfeit their peace. You know, it can be ironic, but a lot of times it can often feel like it hurts even more to hold on to your peace than to let it go. What do I mean by that? Well, When you're in those situations where you can't say what you're thinking, it actually hurts. When you know you're right, but to be at peace, you don't say anything, that hurts. When time seems to be running out and you have to keep waiting and waiting and waiting, that hurts. And when I say it hurts, I mean, there's like this emotional response that you can feel in your body, that tension, those stomach aches, the headaches. So you do what you can to refrain in certain situations, to use, self-control, but yet it feels like you're just stuffing everything. So how is that peace? Well, something that you have to know is that peace, it's a knowing more than a feeling. The feeling will come, but feelings can vary depending on a situation. Your emotions and your body aren't going to pretend like something doesn't feel good. The key, though, is to not let your emotions to have the final say, but rather what you know. And we're going to talk about the skill of letting go, so that you're not hurting yourself by stuffing things. But for now, you need to at least be able to identify who are the people and what are the situations in your life that rob you of your peace, because then you'll know what are the areas that you need to work on. It's a process, but you have to start somewhere. Now let's discuss 3 common questions about peace, right? So, is it possible to have peace in some areas of your life and not others? If my body is reacting in fear, does that mean that I don't actually have peace? Are there things that naturally interfere with my peace? Okay, so let's talk about it. I believe that it's possible for you to have peace in some areas of your life, but not in others. The goal is obviously that peace will overtake every area of your life, but you may have chosen to compartmentalize your peace. What do I mean by that? So, peace is not based on external circumstances. It's a gift that once you have received it, it becomes this force of influence within you, but you may not have chosen to allow it to influence certain areas of your life. You may have chose for it to influence your marriage, but not your work life. You may have accepted and done a great job of keeping your peace with your friends and family, but not your children. And it's not like you need a different kind of peace in those situations. It's the same force, the same substance, but you have compartmentalized that gift within you. It's a choice. Think about it. I'm sure you've had some issues in those areas of your life where you feel at peace, but why don't they affect you the same way? Because you have chosen to allow peace to be the leading force in that area of your life. You've entrusted peace to take the lead instead of things like anger or pride or control or self-pity, whatever it may be. So it's absolutely possible to have peace in some areas of your life, but not in others. Now, let's go to the next question. If your body is reacting in fear, does that mean you do not have peace? No, absolutely not. It does not mean that at all. The gift of peace is given to your spirit, which is then translated by your soul. And the last part of you to be transformed by peace is your physical body. So keep in mind that when you have a fear-based reaction to anything, that is just your brain and your physical body having a physiological response based on how it's been conditioned. So it can take time for the gift of peace to rewire your brain and physiological responses. The more you are aware of those bodily responses and your soul reminds you that you have the peace of God and that you can trust that God will help you, then your body will begin to recondition itself to not react the same. Some of the ways you can do that, you can either meditate on various truths that's going to be helpful in that specific situation that you're generally triggered. So when you're meditating, you're actually reconditioning your subconscious, which will begin to recondition the way your body responds, right? So you could do it by meditation or through exposure, which means that you would actually have to allow yourself to be exposed to those situations multiple times so that in the moment you can practice responding differently. So don't freak out or feel anxious and begin to doubt if you have peace simply because you have an anxious response. Now, if you're constantly anxious or worrying, you're overthinking, you're having a hard time sleeping, it's very likely that you have not embraced or kept your peace. So are there things that naturally interfere with your peace? Absolutely. Things like anger, pride, unforgiveness, bitterness, holding grudges, keeping track of wrongdoing, seeing yourself as a victim, needing validation from people, unhealthy fears, need for control, being stuck in the past. These are just a few of the main antagonists that will try to override and steal your peace. And each of these items that I just mentioned are a force within you. And because, again, peace knows its value, it leaves it up to you to decide which force you want to keep. So it's not as forceful as all the other things that want to push it out. It needs you to intervene. It's interesting. It's like you and peace have to be teammates. You know, peace is going to be passive when you are passive, but peace will dominate when you dominate. What do I mean by dominate? Well, it's simply you having the mindset to refuse to let anything or anybody steal your peace. If you will address every issue that arises right away, then peace will get stronger and do its part because you are doing your part. And when I say address it right away, you know, what do I mean by that? Well, I'm not saying that if you have an issue with a person or something is said that upsets you, that you need to address it immediately. It's not always wise to address the other person immediately, but you can address the second person involved, which is you. You can put your own soul in a posture of peace by choosing to let it go, to forgive, to be merciful, or you can let your soul become bitter and angry and hold a grudge. And this is where you begin to become a stuffer, right? Stuffers become bitter and eventually explosive. But if you choose to take that deep breath and remember that we live in a broken world, which means that people will disappoint you, but it's not worth losing your peace, and that you have a heavenly Father who has your back and will never leave nor forsake you, and you say, you know what, it is all good, I'm letting this go, then you have put yourself in a posture for peace to take over. Let's try to make that our lifestyle, our approach to every situation that we face, that we are going to always fight for our peace. Now, in the beginning, I asked you whether you are responsible for the peace in your atmosphere. What do you think? Because the answer is yes, you are. We've already concluded that you are responsible for your internal atmosphere, which you can control, right? So then how can you be responsible for what's outside of your control, meaning everything outside of you? Well, I think to fully answer this question, it requires a certain spiritual understanding, which I don't know if I have time to completely go into that today, but let me put it this way. There is always a spiritual battle for your peace. The enemy knows that once your peace is gone, you are more likely to give in to his manipulation and deception. So the enemy's goal, if he cannot disturb your internal peace, he's going to try to disrupt your atmosphere, right? He's going to try to create issues around you where you have to function and live on a day-to-day basis so that eventually you're going to give up your peace. How does he do that? He does that by using people around you who are unaware of the spiritual battles taking place and who don't really understand how to keep their peace. You know, he does that by looking for invitations to come into your space, whether that's because of doors that have been opened via things someone has said or watched on television or they're experimenting with. So he's always looking for those opportunities, for those doors to open for him to come in and to create an atmosphere where he can be comfortable. And what is an atmosphere for him to be comfortable? What does that look like? Well, it's that list of things that we mentioned earlier. It's an environment where there's anger, there's pride, there's depression, there's unforgiveness. It looks like that list. But to add to that, you're going to also see disorder, uncleanliness. Things will begin to dry up around you. There's a lot of negativity. There's constant complaining. Those things will be the norm, right? There's heaviness in the atmosphere. There's anxiety. So those are signs that the enemy has come into your space and created an atmosphere. Have you ever gone somewhere and you were just feeling great, right? You walked in, you had good energy, good vibes when you arrived, but then suddenly when you got into that space, you began to feel heavy and you just started feeling off. Your energy started to drop. You felt drained, maybe disconnected. That's because you walked into an atmosphere that contained something that altered your mood. Imagine living in that every day. So what do you do if that is the atmosphere that you live in and you can't leave? You change it. How? Well, you remember that it's always, spiritual things is always a battle of forces. So you have to know and understand that the forces that you have as a child of God are more powerful than the forces of darkness, even on your worst day. Okay? But here's the key. They only work for you if you choose to use them. Let me repeat that. They will only work for you if you choose to use them. They don't work for you if you don't use them. So what are those tools that can push out those negative forces in your atmosphere? I think you know. Maybe I shouldn't even say them because I think you know, but you likely believe that they don't work. I think that maybe you haven't taken them as seriously because you really don't know how powerful they are. And I was like that as well. I just thought, this is what they say to do, but I still feel powerless, even though I was doing all the things. And it wasn't until I came to an understanding of how powerful those tools are and how to work them correctly that I began to see the tangible changes in my life. So I'll share what they are, but if you have doubt, it's time to go deeper in your understanding because it's not a theory, it's not a religious practice, it's a spiritual tool that works wonders. So a few of the tools, there are several, but a few of them that I'll mention today are prayer, praise, fasting, and cleaning. All right? All right, so let's go into these. For the longest, I had no idea how to pray, right? I didn't know there were different kinds of prayers. I even stopped believing in praying in tongues. Like my view on prayer was definitely under attack for a long time. Thankfully, God brought the right people into my life so that I could develop a healthy prayer life and begin to understand how to pray, the power of prayer, and what is actually happening when we pray. And to be honest, I'm still learning and going deeper in my understanding, but if I knew then what I know now, not only would my life have gone in a completely different direction, but it also would have benefited those around us because prayer impacts the people in our lives. So, but I want to say that I truly thank God that I had a praying mother, a praying grandmother, praying aunt and uncle, people in my family, because that helped to cover me when I didn't know how to pray for myself. But let me just go ahead and say that when you pray, heaven begins to move on your behalf. God did not leave us here to manage life on our own without any support. Remember, only a third of the angels fell, which means that 2/3 are still on your side. You have angels with you right now that are waiting for you to give them direction on what you want them to do with your atmosphere. So prayer is a very powerful tool that is underutilized, but it's your greatest advantage when you want something to be removed or shifted in your atmosphere. Now, praise, it shifts your atmosphere, especially when there is a spirit of heaviness. I remember going through this season where I felt at peace, but there was just like this heaviness that kept overtaking me. So when I learned how praise is actually a force that is greater than the spirit of heaviness, I began to praise in my atmosphere, and that spirit of heaviness had no choice but to leave. Light dispels darkness. So let your praises arise. Playing music is great, but it's important that the praises come from you. Make declarations, give thanks when you praise. And if there are people in your home who are contributing to the atmosphere, then the forces that are working with you as you begin to praise, as you pray, as you worship, that is going to overtake whatever is working with them, okay? So it's just a matter of time before they will begin to shift as well. The key is to make it a lifestyle and not a short-term solution, because trust me, the enemy works 24/7. He does not have ADD. He plays the long game. Another tool that I want to mention is fasting. Fasting helps you to hear from God and to discern what is happening around you so that you know what you are actually fighting against. There are many other spiritual benefits to fasting, but in this type of situation, it really is just great to help you get clarity and to strengthen your spirit man. Now, let me say this. It's important to have an idea of what you're fighting against because that will affect the approach that you're going to take. You know, you respond to the spirit of anger differently from the spirit of depression or the spirit of heaviness. So if you don't have that ability to discern, fasting can help you grow in that area. And last tool for today is cleaning. Okay, so now this doesn't sound like a weapon, but to be honest, this is one of the most spiritual acts you can do. It's a weapon because the enemy can only exist in certain types of atmospheres. So if your environment is clean and well organized, then it's going to be very uncomfortable for him to remain, so he's going to leave. So take some time this season to organize your house. Get rid of things you don't need. Let everything have a purpose, and if not, donate it or throw it away. Now, I'm going to say this. This is key. Even if you have to do more of the work to keep the house organized because your spouse doesn't care or isn't very organized, do it. It is necessary. Or hire someone that can come and help you. Cleanliness is next to godliness is not just a saying. It is a spiritual truth. Just test it out for yourself, okay? You'll see for yourself. Be sure you live in a clean environment. Now, after you have addressed your atmosphere, remember that where the presence of God is, demons have to flee. So always be sure to welcome the presence of God into your home, your workplace, wherever it is that you're trying to shift that atmosphere. You cannot make other people peaceful, but you can pray for them and do your part to ensure that your atmosphere is at least peaceful. Remember, peace is a gift that God wants to ensure that you benefit from and that you give to others. So let your life be a testimony that you have chosen to keep your peace and to help others do the same. When you speak life to others, when you encourage, when you give words of wisdom and hope, you are being an agent of peace. When you show mercy and compassion and are quick to forgive and to be at peace with all men, you have become a vessel of peace. Peace he's given unto you, but are you multiplying the gift by passing it on to others? So don't let anyone take your peace, but remember that the only way that can happen is if you choose to give it up. All right, you know what time it is. This is the time where we get to discuss a phrase, pattern, or belief that has been a hindrance to many in the culture, and if we eradicate it, it would improve your life, family, and the community.
It's chain breaking time.
The behavior pattern that we are discussing this week is holding grudges. You have to let it go. Please let it go. You don't have enough mental, physical, emotional, or spiritual space to carry around other people. But that is exactly what you're doing when you hold a grudge. You are weighing yourself down for what? If they did something wrong, why turn around and mistreat yourself by forcing yourself to think about and repeatedly get upset over what they did? It's unhealthy, but it's also pride when you don't let things go. If there's anything you give yourself as a gift this season, let it be a gift of letting go and moving on. Trust me, holding on to things does not protect you. It breaks you down in a slow and cruel way. Carrying a grudge, it doesn't stop them from doing those things again. And it definitely doesn't teach you how to keep yourself safe. There are other methods for that. Things like boundaries, learning how to have a voice, self-defense classes. There are many other ways to keep yourself safe. Get the skills to handle tough situations, but let go of the situations that happen because it's only keeping you stuck in the past. The truth is that you've done things that have hurt other people as well, but you want mercy and forgiveness. Everyone has been hurt. Everyone has hurt someone, so we have to learn to let things go, forgive, and move on. Let me close with a final word of encouragement. Your peace is not up for sale or negotiation. Some gifts you have to keep and be willing to fight for. I pray that you have the strength, the insight, the foresight, and discernment to protect what God has given you. I pray that you know that you are not alone and that you are not left here to fend for yourself. Heaven will fight on your behalf. I pray that you will end this year in a place of peace and that your atmosphere will reflect your internal state. May the peace that surpasses all understanding guard your heart and mind in Christ Jesus. Until next time, shalom.